I think we can get started, and I'll just keep admitting people as they come on in. Just before we get started, I wanted to let everybody know that we're going to record this just so that we can possibly put it on YouTube later for those that couldn't make it tonight. And then we'll see if we can get that on YouTube at a later time. So you have the choice to have your camera on or off if you want. Okay, so my name is Carol Lochtenberg, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the president of the Wildlife Society, and we usually have presentations on a monthly basis, but since COVID, we haven't had anything. And so this is our first presentation since COVID, and it's our first Zoom presentation. So if we have any technical difficulties, please be patient and we'll try to sort everything out. And I think the wind has died down, but if for some reason we have a power outage, I guess we'll have to just try to reschedule another time. The presentation is going to be about 30 minutes or so. And Peter, Paul, and John, so Peter Jones, Paul Jones, and John Field will be doing the presentations. I guess this is a good time if you want to just unmute yourself, Peter, Paul, and John, and just wave hello and say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Can Paul say hi?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, good. All right, so after the 30-minute presentation, what we'll do is take questions. So if you don't know how to raise your hand in Zoom, the only way I know how to do it here is if you scroll at the bottom of your screen, you'll see participants, chat, share screen, pause, stop, and then reactions. If you click on the reaction button, it's a little happy face with a plus on it. And if you click on that, you'll see raise hand. And if you do it by accident, you can lower your hand as well. So you just click on it again, it'll say lower hand. And then we'll take the questions at the end of the meeting, or at the end of the presentation by in how they came in order. Okay, so welcome everybody. We're so glad that you can make it to this presentation. And just a little introduction before we get started. I first heard of Paul Jones and John Field while I was a student at UBC. So one of my professors was telling the class that a group on the Sunshine Coast had recently found a marble murrelet nest, and it was the first active marble murrelet nest to be found in Canada. And I remember this story clearly because I naively could not believe that in that day and age, we didn't already know where all the birds nested in Canada. And so for me, it was like, what? They're still doing these kinds of discoveries. I thought it was really neat. So anyways, fast forward a few years and I moved to the Sunshine Coast. I joined the Pender Harbor Wildlife Society and I meet Paul and John. Which they were two of the people responsible for observing these marble murrelets who forage in the ocean and nest in old growth coniferous forests. And they spent, I think it was about 2 years, pinpointing 2 active nests high up on the Cairn Range. And this discovery would be instrumental in the creation of the BC Provincial Park. And then over the years, I've continued to learn about Paul and John's past continued contributions to the understanding of local wildlife habitat and conservation and their involvement in related environmental issues, including the creation of the Ambrose Lake Ecological Reserve. John is also a retired Capilano University instructor and is involved with the Pender Harbor Wildlife Society, the Loon Foundation, 2 Degrees Institute, and the Salish Sea Marine Survival Project. Paul continues to be an active member of Friends of Cairn, Pender Harbor Wildlife Society, and has written many books regarding marbled murrelets. His most recent book is on sale now and is titled Marbled Murrelet Risking Extinction. Peter had an academic career that includes a stint as the department chair of nutrition at McGill University in Montreal, where he researched dietary factors leading to overweight and heart disease. Since 2019, he has been serving as president of Nutritional Fundamentals for Health, a supplement spin-off company Peter started in 2003 when at McGill. And Peter's relationship with Jervis Inlet started when he served as park ranger at Princess Louisa Marine Park from 1977 to 1981. And I'm very happy to welcome all three of them tonight. And I look forward to hearing about the proposal for the Jervis Inlet Biosphere Conservation Area. So I'm going to let Peter, Paul, and John take over from here. Oh, Peter, you're still muted.
Well, thank you very much,
There we
Carol.
go.
And so I'm going to give you a quick overview of what our plan is, what the Jervis Inlet Biosphere Conservation Area is, and then turn the mic to Paul, who's going to elaborate on it. And I'm also going to give you a slideshow of some great photographs because Jervis Inlet Seashell Corridor is just such a magnificent place to be and to conduct photography and tourism and anything else that works in this wonderful part of the world. So this proposal actually is derived from a proposition to the Shishla Land Use Plan opportunity for proposals, which we submitted an application to in January 2021. And that's based on the Friends of Karen, who Carol elaborated on. Paul is the chairman. I'm serving as secretary, and John Field is part of the subcommittee on ecological biodiversity. So let's just go to the next level. Just slide down. Here we go. So I'm just going to spend a handful of minutes talking briefly about these items. I want to put the proposal into context. I want to talk a bit more about Friends of Karen and who we are, discuss the history and some of the background as far as why Friends of Karen opted to submit a proposal and how we might be useful in actually implementing that, operationalizing that. We want to then go to the proposal itself, talk about its scope, discuss its physical description, and specifically consider aspects including marine protection, forest management, and benefits to the Shishla Nation, to the broader community, and to all the stakeholders who would be engaged in this, and then provide a brief summary. And the slideshow starts here. This photograph was taken at the entrance of Princess Royal Reach, so that is Mount Churchill, shrouded in cloud. It was really a beautiful day last year with cloudy skies on the way up. So the context, yes, in January 2021, the BC government and Shishla Nation, in a collaboration, requested input, requested ideas. And this was under the leadership of Jeff Juthan's group, Province of BC Land and Resource Specialist. And we had an opportunity to basically create a document with ideas towards harmonization of all the interests of all stakeholders, looking at land sustainability, resource stewardship, and management of the waters of the Shishla Nation territory. And with the purpose of trying to come up with a model that would serve the interests of all those stakeholders from an economic, environmental, social, and cultural perspective. And of course, there are many different variables under consideration: old growth forest biodiversity, watershed integrity, cultural resources, and of course, economic development key to this. We felt we were informed. Carol already gave some background, but the Sunshine Coast-based Friends of Karen represents a conservation group that actually, starting in 2012, wrote a white paper wrote a proposal identifying Jervis Inlet as a national biosphere conservation area. We have long-standing interests in developing plans for sustainability for this region. Indeed, it was in the 1990s that the Friends of Karen, through their urgence, was able to realize the Spipius Provincial Park, which sits on top of the Karen Range here on the Sunshine Coast, Sechelt Peninsula. And they also documented Canada's oldest closed canopy forest, and as commented, identified and photographed the first nest of the threatened marble murrelet species. And the history of Friends of Karen is that this stems back to their 2010 presentation to the Shishla elders, which was then followed up by the 2012 proposal for a new park in this territory, understanding and conserving several sacred areas, protecting them for all time. And this really included the corridor that embodies the Sechelt Peninsula, Sechelt Inlets, and Jervis Inlet. So it was in the spirit of that original discussion in 2010 and that proposal that this current proposition, which is entitled Jervis Inlet Biosphere Conservation Area, materialized. So let's talk more about that. So our proposal entitled Jervis Inlet Biosphere Conservation Area was concepted over the last year or so. We submitted the presentation January 21 and presented it in July in a Zoom call, basically with Jeff Juthans and his committee. And it presents a conservation area concept for Jervis Inlet and surrounding areas. And again, as mentioned before, it's really about engagement of stakeholders, sharing the responsibilities, the advantages, and the liabilities that essentially come with considerations of all of these ecological considerations. The highlights of this initiative, this proposal, are exemplified by the importance, for instance, of salmon spawning, the juvenile rearing habitat, as salmon figure prominently in both Shishla Nation cultural histories, as well as federal marine protected area core values. So what is the actual scope of the biosphere conservation area concept? Well, first of all, it's protection of sacred First Nation sites, as well as critical unique ecosystems containing Canada's oldest forests, habitats for threatened species such as marbled murrelets, and a host of other both animal and plant species. And it's critical that we look at the overall consideration of all stakeholders and basically this diverse cluster of considerations in looking at a balanced perspective for supporting biodiversity of the area. So when we look further, the physical description, what would it actually encompass? Here's another picture of Mount Churchill at the entrance of Jervis Inlet. This one was taken just in the last 3 or 4 months. I had an opportunity to travel up Jervis Inlet on 2 occasions this past summer with the absolutely amazing weather. This one was taken a few days after the heat dome decided to move further east, but absolutely gorgeous weather. So you can see from this description that the new park would extend from the middle of Sechelt Peninsula to the environs of the Squamish Territory, and then north for approximately 100 kilometers to take in Princess Louisa Inlet, which really is one of the star attractions of the British Columbia coastal mountains. And those of you who've had an opportunity to travel to Princess Louisa and Chatterbox Falls Park, the waterfalls are absolutely magnificent. The whole environment there is absolutely astounding. The rock face is second only to Half Dome in Yosemite Park in terms of its sheer expansiveness, rising from the water up to heights as much as 4,500 feet. So what would the actual physical embodiment be? Well, there are two different proposed areas here, Area 1 and Area 2, as is depicted here. And you can see here's the entity of Jervis Inlet starting out here, actually close to Sultry Bay, streaming over the north of Nelson Island towards Egmont, and then up here, the three reaches, Princess Royal, Queen's Reach, here's Malibu Rapids, and this is where Princess Louisa Inlet is, and Chatterbox Falls Marine Park here. So the two areas actually are not so very different. They basically are looking at Area 1, which would comprise the entire Sunshine Coast Regional District, and then that would exclude the Squamish Nation territory. The size of this option would be somewhat small at 2,800 square kilometers, embodying and including the town of Egmont. Area 2, slightly larger, has the simple triangular shape, with the base extending from the center of Sechelt Peninsula to Squamish, a distance of some 60 kilometers up to 0.100 kilometers north near Sims Creek, a little further north than the top of Jervis, and then back down Sechelt Peninsula. So this option takes in most of Jervis Inlet, all of Narrows, and most of Sechelt and Salmon Inlets, as well as Agamemnon Channel and some of Hotham Sound. And the area, the scope of this one would be around 3,000 square kilometers. You can see on the right-hand bottom here an image of Chatterbox Falls with the, I think when I was a park ranger up there on one very rainy June afternoon, I could count 34 waterfalls cascading from the mountainous range around Princess Louisa Inlet. Absolutely spectacular area. So when we're looking at specific considerations of this proposition, protecting marine species is a responsibility for the federal government under the Federal Marine Protected Areas program. And we would expect that this would fall within the proposed biosphere conservation area. Paul will comment more on this in a second, but it would ensure protection of the vulnerable killer whale, dolphin, and other whale species that do make regular visits up these inlets. And of course, there are a host of other marine organisms, some of which are listed on this slide. So of course, the biosphere conservation area would involve establishing agreements pertaining to marine species protection with federal agencies, while still permitting fishermen to go about their normal, regular, their fishing commercial activities. The forest management is another key feature of this. A number of existing or planned run-of-the-river hydroelectric generating projects within the proposed conservation area's drainage would be anticipated to benefit from assured stream flows due to retention of forest cover and undisturbed soils. Highland forests are costly to log because of the rock and steep ground. So again, looking at a balanced positioning between the various stakeholders. Most of these forests are the habitat of the threatened marbled murrelet and other animal and plant species. So there are many types of timber, of trees, which would have to be taken into consideration during development of a cohesive, comprehensive forest management plan. Moving on, logging, obviously an extremely important feature of these inlets for over 100 years. And as one travels up Jervis Inlet, as you can see from these pictures, many of the areas, the landings where logs were dumped in the past, as well as helicopter landing sites, are still visible. So the accessible and low-lying areas have largely been cleared of their original old growth timber, and less valued second growth forests have now taken their place. The management of this would be a key feature to permit continuation, of course, of logging, but embracing it within a comprehensive land use strategy. There are many areas of Jervis Inlet, for instance, that have been logged, that have been replanted, such as this one nearing Moorsome Bluffs. There are also many pockets that remain of old growth forests. You can see here in red and green, both around Nelson Island and further up around Moorsome Bluff and into the various reaches. There are still many pockets of old growth for consideration for management. Ongoing is logging at Moorsome Bluff. Now, this was taken in July of 2021, helicopter logging with fairly substantial infrastructure and basically active, commercially viable logging, which again would be part of the blend of considerations by stakeholders in a biosphere conservation proposition. I think it's important to consider other impacts that this would have on Sechelt and Squamish regions. Certainly, one thing would be the anticipation of increased numbers of guests and visitors. And it's estimated there could be as much of as a threefold increase in tourism within this region. And the BC Wilderness Tourism Association is there to ensure a balanced, sustainable future for BC's wilderness tourism. With over 2,000 nature tourism businesses and 20 sector and regional tourism associations. The WTA would be, I believe, we believe, an important stakeholder in terms of the balance of all stakeholders in this biodiversity proposal. Critical also is benefits to the Shishla Nation, and it's anticipated that the Shishla Nation will benefit directly from this proposition in the developing and staffing of many of the facilities that will need to be built inside the conservation area and in the communities close to it. It's also anticipated that enhanced economic development will occur in terms of both increased tourism and improved resource management, which can be viewed to the benefit of the Shishla Nation. And also improved recognition of the territorial linkages and heritage by those visiting the conservation area will be important and will be a coexisting benefit of this proposition. So in summary, and this last photograph is taken on the way out from our second trip this summer down Princess Royal Reach. It's anticipated that the Sunshine Coast Ecological Biodiversity Subcommittee proposition of creating a Jervis Inlet Biosphere Conservation Area should stand to enhance and protect the resources offered in the Sunshine Coast Jervis Inlet corridor. It's believed that the Friends of Karen really possess extensive knowledge and capability in light of their previous activities culminating in creation of the Spipius Provincial Park. And it's hereby offered that the subcommittee and the Friends of Karen as a whole can work as one of the key stakeholders towards the creation of this biosphere conservation area in accordance with the directives issued in the first phase of the BC government and Shishla Nation consideration. So I would just add that there's an opportunity for any of you or any of those who you know of to provide commentary, to provide critique, to provide feedback, or if you're interested in supporting us, please communicate through the info@penderharborwildlife.com link showed below here. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass the baton over to Paul, who wanted to add some further comments considering this proposition. So thank you for your time. And I'm going to turn the microphone to Paul Jones.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol, for the good introduction. And thank you, Pete, for a very well presented little summary of what we were dealing with in Jervis Inlet. Just want to go back to mention that this year marks the 30th anniversary of Friends of Karen and the formation of our group. It was done under Iris Griffith, and she, in fact, was at the meeting, which suggested me as chair of Friends of Karen. So I've been sitting for 30 years now as chair. We don't meet very often, but I'm still there, ready to lend a hand. For those who don't know our history, our group went on in 5 years later, after our group was formed in 91, to get, as Peter said, a Class A provincial park called Spipius Provincial Park. Spipius is the Shishla Nation word for the marbled murrelet, interestingly. We found, as Peter said, the world's oldest closed canopy forests, finding trees of great antiquity and the nests of marbled murrelets. We followed actually 3 nestings, and I was custodian of the photographs for all these findings. And this year I published those photographs. So they're all included in my book. And I was very heartened, as I say in the book, to learn that this year that the BC government is actually setting aside ancient forests for the threatened marbled murrelet. And so our group, Friends of Karen, began, I guess, in 2010 to propose Jervis Inlet watershed as a new national park. You know, I don't think we're talking about a biosphere reserve the same way that was announced for the Shishla people for Howe Sound. We're talking about a national park. It's a much more sophisticated being, I think, and deserves. The biosphere reserve idea is connected with UNESCO and its biosphere reserves, which have become very important throughout Canada and in many other countries. So in 2011, as Peter mentioned, the Shishla Nation elders agreed that this should be a national park, providing we made sure that all the several places, that all the sacred places should be protected. And Joe Harrison and I wrote this proposal for the park in 2012. So as Peter mentioned, the Friends of Karen has now is now working with the BC government, and they have under a foundation agreement with the Shishla Nation and the Squamish Nations to come together to save Jervis Inlet. Furthermore, this year in 2021, the BC government has actually invited interested groups to make presentations, which we did. And at the same time, they have prepared maps of the forests within Jervis Inlet, which will be set aside. We believe in the next month, it'll be signed off as an order specifically set aside these forests for the marbled murrelet and for the mountain goat, for grizzly bears, and for other ungulate species. Now, Peter mentioned this briefly, but over the past 5 years, every year, as far as I'm aware, and I watched and I photographed it 5 years ago, 2 humpback whales were in Jervis Inlet, and they were seen again this past year, and they sometimes others continue on up the coast into the coast of Alaska. We're not quite sure, and I don't think anybody is sure yet whether they're actually mating in these waters, but it looked like to me that that's what they were up to. So these humpback whales need protection. The whole of Jervis Inlet needs protection. And seeing as the BC government is setting aside the forests, the marbled murrelet needs, that's where it lives. It lives on the waters of Jervis Inlet. That's why this should be set aside as a marine protected area, including Motham Sound, Agamemnon Channel, Seashell Inlet, and of course, Princess Louisa Inlet, the absolute gem of the whole of Jervis Inlet. The national park for both Shishla and Squamish people will be a great focus for the 2 great cities on the Pacific on both sides of the US-Canada border. And at the moment, less than 1% of our marine areas have been set aside. And we understand that the federal government is already considering setting them aside as a marine protected area. Thank you very much. Nature BC and Nature Vancouver are behind the drive to have this personal area declared as a national park. Thank you very much. There are copies of my book here. I don't know if you can show it on there, please. This is a copy of my book. Thank you very much.
Back to you, Carol.
Okay. John, did you have anything to add? You have to unmute yourself, John.
I'm here mainly to help answer any questions that might come up.
Oh, okay. Okay, so thanks, Paul, and thanks, Peter. If there are any questions, like I said before, you can raise your hand in the with the little reaction button at the bottom of your screen. There's a reaction button there that you can raise your hand, or I will try, if you can't figure that out, I will try to have a look at the screen and see if anybody just manually puts their hand up or physically puts the hand up. Okay, we have one question here from Sue Grayston. So Sue, if you can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much, Peter and Paul, for that presentation. I was interested in the old growth map that you showed, Paul, with the green and red sections. And it looked like the green was at low elevation. And I was just wondering how much of that is left along Jervis, and if that is hopefully going to be totally protected. Because I know you talked about yellow cedar and mountain hemlock, which is higher elevation. But I wondered how much is left at low.
And most of the, if I may, most of the area that has been set aside and will be set aside, and we hope signed in November by the BC government, it involves only it's really a very small part. It involves about 100,000 hectares, but it is high altitude. Much of it is high altitude, although some is even lower altitude, especially on the edge of Nelson Island and Agamemnon Channel. But there are still pockets of ancient forests. But the really old forest is certainly at high altitude, over 3,000 or 4,000 feet, or over 1,000 meters, between 1,000 and 2,000 meters in altitude. That's where most of this is.
And the color difference.
And the forests are generally fairly closely grown. It is comprised of yellow cedar, mountain hemlock that is actually hybridized with western hemlock. And these, we found western hemlock trees 1,200 and 1,300 years old, and mountain and yellow cedars over 1,800 years old. Quite amazing, quite incredible. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thanks for that. I just wondered, when you were saying that the second growth would still be harvested, is there any thought to trying to recruit the second growth that's left, but maybe in rare ecosystem types, to be retained? And also the pictures of the logging you had on there, it's still clear cut with reserves. And if this is going to be a biosphere reserve, is there going to be consideration of alternative harvesting on the inlet, such as selective, so it's less obvious?
I think because no one likes to see logging taking place in such a gorgeous place as Jervis Inlet, that there would be considerable opposition to logging going on where it's visible. There may be some small areas where logging could take place, but which are not visible from the inlet.
I think I could comment that those sorts of details will probably be worked out at the development of the actual, the conservation area. The proposal is just simply an outline at this point. It's not the details of that kind of level of detail is not going to come up yet.
But the Shishela are very much in agreement with the plan.
You're muted, Peter. Peter, you're muted.
So we invited Shishla Nation representatives, and there may be some on this call. We had an official letter from a representative stating that they appreciated our dissemination of this plan to the public in today's forum, and that they were planning to engage this coming summer, 2022, when the land use plan goes to the next level. And I imagine that the proposals are vetted down to, if you will, some semi-finalists. I'm not sure how it will work, but they plan to be fully engaged at that point, but did not wish to make any presentation at this forum this evening.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up. If anybody, it could be that you don't know how to do the hands up. There's also the chat. If you click on the chat, you can type your letter and I can read it out loud. The chat is also at the bottom with the participants chat, share screen reactions. Oh, hang on, I have one hand up here. So Annalise, I think. Annalise?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi,
unmute
Carol.
yourself. Hi.
I just wanted to ask about Hotham Sound. I think I saw in your map that it was only like the Harmony Islands on the east side that were protected. And I was wondering about that, if the whole Hotham Sound wasn't protected. As well, I wanted to, or I'll let you answer that first, I guess.
You're correct, Peter. I just will say you're right. The map shows the Harmony Islands and the east side of Hotham Sound being part of the proposed conservation area. Whether a larger amount of Hotham would be eventually encompassed or not, I guess will remain to be seen. There's certainly part of that absolutely beautiful landscape.
Includes free of falls.
Yeah.
Okay, because I guess one of my concerns is that there is a company, I believe they're called Jervis Ports or something like that, that have been threatening to set up some sort of like Vancouver port type situation in Jervis Inlet on the other side by Sultry Bay. And one of their proposals, as far as I understand, apart from container ships coming and going in cetacean areas, as you say, one of their proposals is to actually have a road that hugs the western shore of Hotham Sound, goes up towards Mount Churchill, and then down to Squamish type area, I believe. So that, I guess I was hoping that maybe a biosphere that would encompass the whole of Hotham Sound would put an end to that crazy idea, in my opinion.
Dad, did you want to comment on the proposals for fixed links up to Powell River and how that would impact Jarvis?
Yeah, we're really looking very closely at fixed.
Oh, Peter, you're muted again.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Just maybe start over. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So,
okay.
yeah, Dad will
Yeah.
comment on the fixed link proposals that have been floating around
Yeah,
to Powell River and other places.
we're looking at the fixed link right through from the Squamish side as far as Vancouver Bay, which is
Right.
at the delta of the Vancouver River, which flows west, I guess, from the divide between the Squamish River and the Ashlew River. There are logging roads that are very close to meeting that have gone west through and into the highlands. And there's another road that comes all the way along the
Ilaho, is it?
from the Ilaho, right? It's along the Ilaho. So yeah, there are possibilities, and there's possibilities also of having a new Whistler up in there. There's some very fine skiing areas, but I think we have to leave that for now.
Well, you do understand that that road, what they're planning is to go over one of the royal reaches, towards the gem of the Sunshine Coast, as you rightly say, Princess Louisa. And apparently there would be not just a road, but a railroad track. So in any case, that's one thing that seriously concerns me. The other question I wanted to ask was, my property in Egmont is actually would be part of this biosphere. So what is the plan towards getting us property owners to be part of this, and what would that really entitle? I guess I'd like to know about that.
The federal government has all kinds of plans for people who are affected by the formation of parks, and I think the federal parks people would be able to answer that much better than I could.
We're inside the Skookumchuck Narrows Provincial Park.
Okay.
And I know that the provincial park has a mandate to actually buy the properties where the trail goes into the Skookumchuck, but they don't seem to be going ahead on that. Anyways, I'll give you my contact information through Carol, and if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I have another question from C. Alexander. Says, any idea how many other proposals were submitted and from who?
No.
So you were talking about that before Annalise's question.
Right. During our presentation in July, so we made a PowerPoint presentation to the Land Use Committee under Jeff Juthans. It was communicated to us that there were more than a few proposals that were on the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
And so the next stage was to look for amalgamation, for cohesion between some of these, to look for commonality, and then go forward with that short list that I mentioned starting this summer. So we weren't told exactly how many, but certainly there were lots of groups that decided to respond to that January 31st deadline to submit propositions. That's a long way of saying we don't know.
Okay, anyone else? I'll look through the gallery here. Nicholas? Nicholas
Thought I
Hyman,
should
yeah.
just thank you very much and hello everyone, and nice to see you all.
Hi,
And
Nicholas. Hi.
hello. I'm really pleased you're pursuing this, and I'm pleased that the Shishaf Nation and the province are with you as the proposal gets put forward. Just so you know, the proposal for a fixed link, as they call it, or a road to Powell River has been one that's been around for at least 2 decades. And the idea is to create a port to take over the excess demand of Vancouver Port, which is getting close to being at capacity. So I've never seen that proposal go very far, and I know it's been brought to the province and to the federal government. And I don't know where to categorize that as legitimate or not. I tend to think that it's not, but I'm also, just so you know, the Jervis Inlet is likely a place, the seashell name for it, I think, is one that we're going to be trying to be put back into use maybe. As we see many places on the Sunshine Coast are being identified with their real names, the names they used before we got here. So I'm really excited about this, and Howe Sound has just been successful in their Biosphere project. I'm sure that there are some lessons we can learn from others' efforts, and I just commend everyone on their work. I also mentioned that the northern goshawk is also one of the species for which protection of old growth is required under federal law. So, and thanks again. I look forward to seeing people in person. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Any comments? Any other questions? Oh, and Clemens? And just make sure to unmute yourself. I still don't hear you, Anne.
Okay,
Oh, there we go. Hear you.
I just pressed the right button. Well,
Great.
it's nice to be able to join a group like this. Very interesting to hear the comments. But I was wondering about fish farms. Gus Angus had a big fish farm there in near Howe Sound. I can't remember the name of the bay. But I wondered if they should be informed of what's going on, if they're not already, to allay any fears, or otherwise ahead of any further developments. Thank you.
John, any comment?
I was trying to think if there are any up there. Does anybody know?
There's some up Agamemnon. I boated up there a handful of days ago, but I don't recall seeing fish farms this summer. It's true. I think there used to be, but certainly I think they still exist in Seashelt Inlet, but I don't know about the inner Jervis Inlet.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing any when I went up there this summer.
Okay, thanks.
There is a farm at Glacial Creek, halfway between Brenton River and Deserted Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to mention, Nicholas Simons in the chat just wrote, the Seashell Nation refers to Jervis Inlet as, and then he put the Seashell Nation word. I don't know how to pronounce it, but if anybody wanted to have a look at how it's spelled and maybe let us know how it's pronounced. That was just, what's that?
Lequimine, I believe.
Oh, okay. Lequimine? Good. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then we have Beverly here who has the next question. So Beverly, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi, Beverly.
Sorry, I'm in my kitchen. I'm making dinner, so not very good lighting. I'm excited to hear all of this as someone who actually lives up here on the inlet. And I thought I'd say something positive because you were, Mr. Jones was talking about there is maybe whales up here. And I can attest that, yes, there are whales. I've got videos of the humpbacks that come right here.
Yeah.
And they've been identified by some of the whale watch groups. And we actually know the names of some of them. And something that I was surprised to hear, I can't say that I have, I did not see this directly. I wish I would have, but a friend of mine has a taxi service and two of their drivers or captains about a month ago saw two gray whales over here in Hotham Sound, and one of them had a baby.
Oh, wow.
They're here and they need to be protected too.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing that. That's fantastic, Beverly.
Yeah.
When I was sailing up Jervis right at the mouth at Egmont 10 years ago, my boys and I actually passed right through a pod of approximately 8 to 10 killer whales. It was one of the absolute most moving experiences because you could almost reach out and touch the fins. They basically surfaced right and swarmed us. And now my older son will never go in the water. I have to clean the bottom of his boat for him. He climbs trees. He's the Sunshine Coast tree guy. He's happy up 100 feet, but he won't go under the water 2 feet after seeing that.
Well, I've had them come right up to the edge of the water, right up to the rocks. You know, I could almost reach out and touch the humpbacks.
Yeah.
They come
Wow.
amazingly close, and of course we've had orcas through here and the humpbacks, and I've never seen a gray, but apparently they came into Hotham this year. One other mention I'd say is, I don't know. I just feel, I think a lot of Egmont, this area, this whole summer, I felt rather invaded because so much logging is going on. And they've had this, they had input for the change in the visual impact because they're going to be changing that. And I don't know, it's just maybe my feeling, but it just feels like everybody's hustling really fast to get as much timber out of here as they can before some of these designations change. And there's a lot of logging going on, and even right above my home.
Yeah.
And
Egmont
that-
is an absolute hub of activity. Yeah, I spent the night on the public dock on my boat on Monday night, and it was just crazy the amount of toing and froing of commercial vessels related to the gravel operation and logging and who knows what, coming and going constantly.
Right.
I mean, that's great for commerce. You know, again, it's how it fits into a conservation plan needs to be looked at.
Right. Well, it's always been that way, but for some reason it feels like it's really stepped up here this year. And the Sanko with the seashell band is also they're logging all around here too. In fact, that was their logging they themselves, but their outfit that had the helicopter accident, which was right in front of our house.
Wow.
But I'm happy to see this keep moving. I remember talking to Joe Harrison about something like this at least 10 years ago.
Sure.
So anything I can do to help and support you, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another question from Richard Carton. Is the newly planned TELUS development at Collie Point compatible with the park?
And is it part of the plan? Is it recognized as being, is it included in the proposal?
Yeah, I wasn't fully aware of it. Were you, Dan?
No,
John, were you
no.
aware of the TELUS development at
Yeah,
Collie
I
Point?
know about the Terrace development, but I think they would have.
Well, I'm not even sure where Collie Point is. Where is that?
It's up in Narrows Inlet.
It's in Narrows.
And so there's a camp
Yep,
plan.
and
There's a camp plan, a children's camp plan, but also a resort.
Oh, that's the one that involves chokers in Seashell Inlet, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that the departure point is chokers. They're building a resort there, and then the camp is further up at Collie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very new. I think it was just announced, what, was it a week or couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it would be definitely a point for consideration as the proposal is developed. Thank you for, bringing that to our attention.
You're welcome.
Okay. I don't see any other hands up or questions in the chat. So just one last chance for if anybody wants to make a comment. I'm just going to have a look at the gallery. I don't see anybody's hand up either.
If I can just say that on behalf of Friends of Karen, we certainly welcome your comments, critique, general feedback, and feel free to offer written remarks to the site that was on that last slide, and including whether you would like to be appraised of further developments regarding the proposal, and or if you wish to potentially support us. So yeah, we'd be very keen to hear any further written commentary. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, the Pender Harbor Wildlife Society, I do put out a newsletter every once in a while. It's only, it's usually wildlife news or something that we're connected to in one way or another. So that would probably be one way to be updated. So if you would like to be added to our mailing list, you could email info@penderharborwildlife.com and I can add you to the mailing list. And at any point in the future, you could just unsubscribe. There's a little link at the bottom. But that would be a good way to be kept updated. Because yeah, unfortunately our website is not up. We had some hacking issues, and so the website is not, I won't be putting any information on the website, but the newsletter will have information. So if that's it, I think that's it. Oh,
Paul just had one last comment.
okay, yep.
Yeah.
These books are available from Paul Jones at box 99, Garden Bay. 25 bucks.
Can you just repeat that?
Yeah, these books, Marlette's books. This is about our surveys during the 90s. Are available for $25 from box 99 in Garden Bay from Paul Jones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just had one more question here. How soon will there be an announcement? That's by Sue Grayson.
I guess that's regarding the proposal.
Yeah. Like, I guess when is like what's the next step? Or the,
Well, we are continuing to dialogue with Mr. Juthans, and we hope to hear some next step, whether our proposal will be considered further, whether it will be rolled in with others, what the next steps will be. So we will make that information available when we hear. Right now, government wheels don't turn particularly swiftly, shall we say. So it sounds like it will be an iterative process that will take months or even years going forward. So I guess patience is a virtue.
Carol, is this also a wildlife club meeting, or is just strictly the presentation?
this was just going to be a presentation for today. Yeah. We could possibly have a wildlife meeting this way now that we've done it like this, and that'll be something. The board does still meet, and we can discuss and maybe have a meeting for our members as well.
I was just wondering about the bird count, so Christmas bird count. When?
Oh, well, if you have an announcement, yeah, you can make an announcement for sure.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, there are two dates that are possible, are December 15th and December 22nd. Those are both Wednesdays. But unfortunately, I won't be here for the first one. So I was hoping that we would sanction December 22nd if it's not too close to Christmas.
I think that's probably okay. How about, well, I'm okay with it. I'll put it out there to the board, and then
yeah,
we can let the members know after that. But I think that's fine.
If you could let me know yay or nay on that date as soon
Okay.
as possible, then I'll pass it along to Tony.
Great. Good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for the comments and the questions. And thank you, Paul, for all your hard work over the years. Thanks, Peter, for the presentation. And John, you always have all sorts of good knowledge to share too. So thanks to everybody. And I will let you know through the newsletter if we can get this presentation up on YouTube. And again, the website or the email is info@penderharborwildlife.com.
Thank you, Carol, for coordinating this whole show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Nice to
All
see
right.
people. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Get out of this. Oops, guess I'm probably-